Hey guys, in this video I want to share with you some ideas of why you should only focus on one thing if you are serious about wanting to see any results with building an online business or to make money online in general. And we will go over some concepts as to why you are so scattered in your ideas and your time. So just to give a quick overview, we will be diving into some of the reasons why you cannot focus and why your attention is so scattered and what are the reasons behind it and what you can do to actually change those aspects and change your entire outlook so that you can move forward and start seeing results. So what are the common issues? I've broken it down here into 4 categories pretty much to give you an idea of why you cannot focus to really start seeing results. And to really start things off is that you actually have a short attention span. And the reason why I break down this list is because I personally, to give an example, is that I've suffered with all of these issues at some point. Even every so often you still have these doubts and these misconceptions of certain ideas, and sometimes they do have a tendency to skew your ideas and visions of where you actually want to go. But if you can remain focused and stay in your lane, you will be able to overcome a lot of these issues. So to kick things off, for the most part, the first idea is that you have a short attention span. You are not able to focus on any one particular area and stick with it long enough to actually see any real results. You may quickly get bored, or you may even suffer from shiny object syndrome. I know myself from my own personal experiences that I have suffered with this a lot, that I had so many ideas and I wanted to pretty much do everything under the sun. But the problem is I tried to do everything and you quickly burn out. And as a result, you actually don't allow yourself to focus on any one particular area long enough because your ideas and your time is so skewed amongst different projects that you never actually see any results and nothing really takes off. So the second point is to avoid distractions. And it may be a case that you get distracted far too easily. Like the previous step, you could be trying to do too many tasks or multiple tasks at once. You may have different responsibilities. You may have to look after your kids, family members. You may have a full-time job. You may be on call 24/7 and you have to take on those responsibilities, and it leads you to being distracted all the time. You could even be addicted to social media or using your mobile phone, and you find yourself every time your phone pings or goes off, you're constantly checking your phone to see what notifications that you're actually getting. But you have to ask yourself, do you really need to check your phone? What also can skew your focus is also listening to others and letting other people's opinions of what you're doing dictate your future ideas, which can lead to poor choices and feeling overwhelmed. And the last point I quickly want to talk about is that you could be highly stressed. You are distraught and are overwhelmed with self-criticism and doubt, which leads to skewed ideas and not being able to concentrate for any period of time. You could be stressed out with your relationships, your 9-to-5 job. You could have issues with your family members. You could have financial issues. You may not be seeing results of what you're trying to do with your online business. You're not sure that things are actually working, even though you actually are putting in the work, but you're not seeing any results. There's so many things that can actually lead to high stress levels. So it is another thing that you really should be aware of. Another big key point, and this probably boils down to an accumulation of everything that I've just mentioned, is that we actually don't hold ourselves accountable. We need to be more self-aware and be willing to take full responsibility for our own choices. Once we do that, we will start to see big changes, and that's where the results will begin to show. And primarily this is a big major issue and factor with regards to staying focused and actually getting the results, is that we make excuses and we make poor choices through various different reasons, and because we don't hold ourselves accountable, we allow ourselves to keep being oblivious to the same mistakes. We keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again, but we don't actually realize that we're actually doing it. As the saying goes, what's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If we don't hold ourselves accountable, we won't see results show. So it's definitely something that really does need to be taken into account pretty much if you really want to get your act together, if you will, and start seeing those results. We do need to hold ourselves more accountable. So even just to put it into context as to why we actually can't focus, and a lot of it actually has to do with our current situations in terms of life, the modern day world, society. There are so many opportunities available to us in the current day that we currently overlook them, and a lot of times we're completely oblivious to their actual potential. And this is so true. Unlike back about 50 or even 20 years ago, we didn't really have access to the internet, so people actually had to go out and work for somebody else. and struggle on the day-to-day grind trying to make ends meet, whereas now we actually have the potential to actually be able to create things for ourselves and to work for ourselves within our own limits, within our own time. And a lot of the time we're still stuck in the same frame of mind that we actually have to go out and get a job, when the reality is we don't actually have to do that anymore. We can actually create something for ourselves because we have the means, we have the avenues, we have the tools, we have everything there available to us to be able to show us how to do that. But we're still stuck in our old ways, and we're very, very reluctant to want to change our ways, and that can also skew your focus as well, because there's so many things available to us online that it does also accumulate to the amount of distractions that we currently face on a day-to-day basis. We don't realize the ability that we actually have. We have so many avenues that we can take advantage of, and we just don't do it. Or what actually happens is we do try to do it, but we take on too many things at once, and it completely just skews our whole concept of what it is that we're trying to do, and we never actually get results. And also another big factor that really comes into play, and this is a really big issue too as to why we can't focus, is that we actually don't want to put in the work. And the modern world leaves us with a lot of questions that are pretty much unanswered, pretty much like what I've just discussed. And we do have a tendency to walk around with a sense of entitlement, thinking that we don't need to actually earn what it is that we want, but that it will just fall onto our lap whenever we actually demand something. And this is simply not the case. We need to get out of the habit of being able to think that we can just assume that everything's just going to work for us. What has actually pretty much happened is that we've come from a point where, like I mentioned previously, where we didn't have access to the internet. There was no such thing as social media or mobile phones, and we literally had to work with what we have. And now to a point that we actually have all the tools and everything in front of us, and there's processes there that actually has the potential to make our lives so much easier, but we don't utilize it in the correct ways. And what actually happens is we take it for granted, we're either oblivious to it, or we're that ignorant and would have a bad attitude to a point that we think we don't need it, and we think that when we do the bare minimum that we're just going to get by and that everything's just going to fall in place, and that simply does not work. So a quick tip really to alleviate this and to hold yourself accountable is, if you truly want results online, you must be willing to actually do the work. Work yields results. Doing nothing will actually get you nowhere. And this is just as simple as it gets. You only get out of it what you're willing to put in. If you're not willing to focus and hold yourself accountable, you're never going to get anywhere. So what are some of the steps that we can do to actually stay focused on whatever journey or practical ideas that we want to focus on? Well, there are plenty of ways and changes that you can make to stay focused on your path to building those foundations to build an online business, but they can also help you to change your life for the better. And here I've outlined some key areas that you should actually take into account should you actually wish to actually start changing things. And the first one is literally to cut out all of the unnecessary noise. And what do I mean by that? And this is going back to the previous points of eliminating distractions and so forth. If you are working at your computer at any point in time, make sure you block out time to actually do the work. But what you do is you close the door, you actually tell people in your house, let them know that I'm going to be working for the next couple of hours, do not disturb me. Make sure that you switch your phone off, do anything necessary to be able to focus on what it is that you need to do. Even as an example to this, even in regards to even doing a day job, you can utilize the similar steps even in your day-to-day job. Because when we're working in the corporate world, when we're working for somebody else, even though we're there doing our work, the problem that we do have on a day-to-day basis is, even though that we're dealing with other people and we're working alongside of other people, there is always that opportunity to get caught in certain bad habits and bad behaviours. And as a result, you can get caught up in unnecessary conversations, gossip, and actually what that does is that actually just wastes your time, your energy, and it just drains you mentally. So what you need to do is, if you really want to have more clarity and focus, by all means, if you do have a day job currently at the minute, focus on your work, but allow yourself to try and eliminate those distractions. Don't allow any outside sources to influence how you feel and how you actually act in a given moment. The key thing is to focus on your work at hand, clock out at the end of the day, go home, unwind, and then that'll give you more than enough time then to actually focus on what it is that you want to do in your own time, to actually focus on your business and actually see those results. If you can start utilizing those simple steps on your day-to-day tasks, it will actually help you further on when you actually go to do your own tasks in your own time. Which leads on to the tasks at hand, that when you are doing tasks, only do one small thing at a time and work on it until it's done. Now that's not to say to work like 10 hours or to work pretty much until you're exhausted. Do small incremental steps. If you've only got a half an hour or an hour to do specific tasks, Work and use that time effectively, and work at it until you've gotten to a certain point where you're happy enough with your progress, and then step away from it and then come back to it then a couple of hours later or the next day or whenever you have set aside time to actually do so. And leading on to the next point, which I mentioned in the first point also, is to turn off your phone. Any sort of unnecessary noise or distractions need to be eliminated. You have to ask yourself every time your phone pings or goes off and you get a notification, do you really need to check it? Do you really need to answer that phone call? The chances are that you don't. If it's important, by all means take it. If not, turn your phone off and then you can ring people back as and when you're ready to. And even again speaking, don't spend 10 plus hours at a computer. Do smaller sessions of work. Even designate time to do specific tasks, like the most important tasks. If you've got really hard tasks to undertake, get them out of the way first, and then that way then as the day goes on, you can gradually incorporate some of the simpler tasks. That way then you can start to unwind. Even as a good example, there's loads of different timers that you can use. You can set a stopwatch, or even you can use what's called the Pomodoro technique. There's apps online that you can actually check, and it sets off like a timer. You can set the time if you only want to work for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. You can set it to start work at that specific time, and after the required amount of time that you've set, say if it's 25 minutes, it will start to beep like a stopwatch. And what it'll do is that'll let you know that it's time to step away from your computer so that you can take a breather for 5 or 10 minutes. Go for a walk, go and take a break, which leads me on to the next point. Take time out to do some exercise and to unwind. So every time when you are taking a break, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, go and have a cup of tea, cup of coffee, go and grab something to eat. Or even if you're taking an hour off or 2 hours off, go and do some exercise. If you have some training to do, if you go to the gym, or if you like doing any sort of form of exercise, use that time effectively to do it, and then when you're ready you can come back and do a bit more work. It's all about getting into necessary habits and routines. So the proposed solution ideally would be, the more we can stay focused on one thing, the faster we will start to see actual results. But laying down too many bricks on different foundations only slows your progress, and you will never really grow. And we've seen this happen so many times. If you're doing YouTube videos or if you're doing blog posts, but yet you're trying to do loads of other things, you never really allow yourself to focus on one area long enough to actually see any results. And I can relate to this 100% because I made the same mistakes when I first started out. I had all the ideas and great ideas, but at the same time, those ideas, you don't realise that you don't need to do them all at one time. You can leave them until a later date, till you're ready and you've developed enough that you can actually focus on them. Pick one thing and focus on it, and then allow that to grow over time. So like I mentioned throughout the video, the process really to stay more focused is to work with an idea that you love. Work with something that you are actually passionate about and that drives you to keep going. And it will also help you to stay motivated so that you will start to see those results over time. And even in context of actually setting good foundations and habits is to designate time to work each day. Set out a certain amount of time blocks throughout the day and designate that time to work on your craft. Even if you only have 1 hour a day, make sure you utilise that time effectively so that you can really start seeing some progress. Which does lead on to also taking time out for yourself. There is nothing more important for your business and for you to grow than to take time out for yourself and do things that actually help you unwind. Get plenty of rest, implement healthy habits like training, healthy eating and so forth, even doing projects or side projects that actually is very therapeutic, that actually helps you to relax. And this will greatly help your progress and allow you to actually stay focused and be more consistent with your journey. And most importantly, to allow yourself to really stay focused is also to allow yourself to fail forward in your business. Because another key area is, another reason why we can't stay focused is because we're so afraid of failing, that we're overthinking every aspect of what we're trying to do, and we never stick at one thing long enough to allow ourselves to actually fail, so we avoid failure. But if we allow ourselves to fail and then keep moving forward and learn from mistakes, then the results will actually start to show. But all these ideas all come into play only when we actually do put in the work. Don't be afraid to allow yourself to fail. It's the key thing to really see any sort of growth, because if you don't fail, you can't grow. And if you want to know more steps on actually how you can utilize a lot of what I've mentioned here to actually help you to move forward with building those foundations, below in the description is a link to a free web class that will actually teach you all that you actually need to know to overcome shiny object syndrome. It'll also give you ideas of what you can do to actually stay focused on one particular area so that you can actually get forward with actually building those foundations and build a solid foundation so that you can actually see real results in your business. And if you'd like to see more helpful guides and videos like this where I show you other ways of how you can take proven steps to actually generate the results that you want to actually grow an online business from scratch, then make sure to leave a like on the video. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel, and again hit that bell icon to be updated whenever those videos are released, as I will be creating a lot more of these helpful guided videos that will teach you ways of how you can actually build those foundations and to move forward. So as always, make sure to check those videos out, and I will see you all in the next one.